Hi everyone, I'm Kirsten Davidson, your host and creator of my wellness podcast, Mind the Gaps, surrendering our typical ways of looking at life to step out of our comfort zone and into our growth zone. Welcome to episode number 13, Taking Back the Morning. Today, I'll be talking about slowing our mornings right down so that we can engage in self-care practices that can help set us up for happier and healthier days and happier and healthier lives. I'm excited for today's episode because it's a little more personal as I invite you into my morning routine and I share my journey away from rushed mornings and towards recharging mornings. For all things Mind the Gaps, you can find me on Instagram at kirsten.davidson. I'm happy to answer every single one of your questions, comments, or feedback on the show, and most of all, I'm happy to have you as part of the Mind the Gaps community. If you're interested in booking a therapy session with me, please feel invited to email me at kirsten@mindthegaps.co. You can also schedule a session online through the link found on all of my social media platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Would you say that you're a night owl or an early bird? A typical icebreaker prompt. I used to consider myself a night owl. I'd stay up late and then delay getting out of bed in the morning to the last second possible, which left me feeling anxious and frustrated in the mornings. Everything was everyone else's fault. The slow traffic, the line at the cafe to get my tea. Didn't people know that I had to get to work on time? In that morning rush era of mine, I was also someone who would scoff at people running or walking outside in the wee hours of the morning. As I was scrambling to do my makeup, I'd get a glimpse of them outside my window and think, wow, must be nice to have all the time in the world, as if I didn't have a say in the matter, a say in how I started my day each morning. My dad and his wife have made a routine of going for sunrise walks, and a couple of years ago, I begrudgingly agreed to join them on a quiet Monday morning. As beautiful as it was, you wouldn't find me on one of those walks for about another year until, slowly but surely, messages kept coming my way about creating quote-unquote slow mornings, and I was finally ready to receive those messages. So what is a slow morning? Well, first let's start with the opposite, a rushed morning. The mornings I was so used to since as long as I could remember. When we're rushing, our body is in survival mode. What I mean by this is that our brain is signaling to our body that we're at risk of something, maybe getting fired, if we don't get moving and get moving fast. In this rush mode, our stress hormones such as cortisol spike way up, which actually exhausts our nervous system and leaves us feeling even more tired later in the day. When we're rushing, we're also more likely to make errors in judgment, which accounts for a large majority of car accidents in the mornings and for the spilled tea and broken mugs on my countertop here and there. Here's the good news, the great news, in fact. No one can stop us from doing our inner work. No one can stop us from taking back our mornings, from slowing down and not just slowing down, but also being intentional with our time. One of the first steps of letting go of my morning rushing was letting go of the stories that I told myself that went with it, which were, I'm a night owl and I'm not a morning person. Says who though? Last time I checked, we're the only ones who can and who get to decide what time we get up at. I started going to bed an hour earlier than usual and getting up an hour earlier than usual. I thought to myself, why is it that an hour in the evening seems to fly by unnoticed? I don't think much about whether it's 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., but the thought of leaving myself an extra hour in the morning, the difference between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., felt agonizing, as if I needed that specific hour of sleep to live. As with any new habit, it kind of sucked to start, but it wasn't long before I became positively addicted to the calm, peace, and contentment of a regulated nervous system in the morning. One where I wasn't angry at the people around me and where I had room for self-care activities that hadn't even been on my radar. This brings us to being intentional with that extra time in the morning. For a lot of us, we're on autopilot before we go to work. Get up, scroll on our phones, roll out of bed, have a coffee, pull ourselves together, and out the door. Even if we're not rushing, we might be missing out on some pretty transformative mindfulness moments. That is, being fully present, fully immersed in the now. Today, I'll be sharing with you 6 of my slow morning habits that have changed the way that I relate to myself, others, and the world. And not just in the morning, but throughout my entire day. It's a beautiful thing to become an active participant in our lives rather than a passive recipient of it. These habits I'm about to share are accessible to everyone, and even better, they're free. As said by theologian and poet Rumi, the universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything you want, you already are. Like I've been saying, no one can stop us from doing our inner work, our inner healing. Before we dive in, I'd like to highlight just how important it is to be flexible with our morning routine and to be kind to ourselves when we let it fall to the wayside at times. Something I like to employ from American author James Clear when building new habits is to try not to skip more than 2 days at a time when you're in the habit building phase. This helps to keep momentum and to not forget the feel-good feelings of these healthy habits. Keep in mind that not all of what I share in this episode will resonate with you, and that's more than okay. I'd simply encourage you to keep an open mind and an open heart as you listen. My goal here is to inspire and spread the happiness and joy that has grown in my life from listening just the same. So, without further ado, welcome to my morning routine. One of the first things I do when I get up in the morning is reach for my gratitude journal. In this journal, I'll write 3 things that I'm looking forward to today. These can be big or small. Sometimes I'm looking forward to having a cup of tea in the sun. You can tell I'm a tea drinker. I've only referenced it 3 times in the episode so far. And on the bigger days, maybe I'm looking forward to being interviewed on someone's podcast. I'll revisit this same journal before I go to bed, where I'll write down 3 things that I'm grateful for today. The beautiful thing about gratitude practices are that you can make them your own. If writing down 3 things that you're grateful for in the morning suits you best, go for that instead. The point here is to intentionally evoke thankfulness and appreciation for anything in our lives. As I mentioned in episode 3 of Mind the Gaps, Gratitude for Pain, maybe you feel grateful this morning that you found matching socks. Finding socks is clearly not painful, but if you're curious about what having gratitude for pain means, definitely give episode 3 a listen. The psychological and physiological benefits of practicing gratitude are quite literally endless. Research has found that feeling grateful can improve our mood and immunity. It can alleviate us from feeling depressed and anxious and reduce our risk for disease. This goes back to what we talked about in episode number 8 of Mind the Gaps, mind-body fusion. There is no separating our minds from our bodies, and so when we take care of our mental health, we are, of course, also taking care of our physical health. As said by the Mayo Clinic Health System, if a single pill could do all that gratitude could, everyone would be taking it. As an added tip, I like to keep my phone on Do Not Disturb from the time I go to bed until the time I'm done my morning routine. That way, when my alarm goes off to wake me up, I won't see any notifications on my phone that might have otherwise sucked me in and away from my slow morning. After I finished my gratitude practice, I open up another journal where I keep what I refer to as my monthly manifestations and affirmations. For some background, on the first of every month, I write out 10 manifestation and affirmation statements. Statements that I'd like to hold in my head and my heart every day that month to help me feel aligned and authentic. And so every morning, I read these 10 statements out loud to myself. For example, I might write, I am kind, or I am attracting what is meant for me. What's really important, most important I'd say about these statements, is beginning with I am, not I will, or I can, or I'm going to. I am, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Now, you might also be wondering, what's the difference between a manifestation and an affirmation? By definition, a manifestation is a belief that is intended to turn into a reality. So, I am attracting what is meant for me fits that description nicely. An affirmation is a statement of empowerment designed to reinforce positive self-talk. So, I am kind could counter the belief I am a bad person. When it starts to get really interesting is when we notice how affirmations and manifestations can overlap. For instance, say a goal of yours is to reduce the amount of time you spend gossiping. Your affirmation, I am kind, also then works as a manifestation because being kind doesn't really align with talking badly about other people. Truly believing you're kind can help manifest your kindness. What we think about, we bring about. Affirmations and manifestations act as self-fulfilling prophecies, and that means the belief that something is true can in fact lead it to be true. As said by Hungarian and Canadian author and physician Gabor Mate, no one really sees things as they are. We see things as we are. We have the power to influence our reality. New York Times bestselling author Greg Braden has a book on quantum theory called The Divine Matrix, where he speaks to the concepts of manifesting and affirming. Greg references countless research experiments on the interconnectedness of everything and everyone on a quantum level, endorsing that we are powerful creators rather than passive observers of the world and of our lives. Greg speaks to the secret of manifesting and affirming as, quote, making your future dream a present fact. I'll say that again. Making your future dream a present fact. That is, embodying your hopes and dreams as if they've already happened, as if they're already true. Hence the importance of using I am rather than I will. The power of belief is not to be understated. Just like gratitude, it can change our physiology. There's an overwhelming amount of cases emerging on individuals curing themselves of disease, and not just a cold, but of life-threatening illnesses through manifestations and affirmations. If you're interested in learning more about these cases, I would highly recommend checking out The Divine Matrix, Gabor Mate's book, The Myth of Normal, Gabby Bernstein's book, The Universe Has Your Back, and the Netflix documentary, Fantastic Fungi. These include some of my favorite success stories on the power of positive beliefs. The reason I follow up my gratitude practice with manifestations and affirmations can be summed up by a single quote from scientist, teacher, and author Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says, "By combining the feeling of gratitude with a clear intention, you embody the new event emotionally. Your thought changes your brain, and the emotion changes the chemistry of your body. You're now in a new future in the present moment." I'll say that last line again. You're now in a new future in the present moment. You're embodying your desires as if they've already happened. The third activity in my morning routine is a guided breathing exercise founded by Dutch motivational speaker and extreme athlete Wim Hof. This breathing exercise is designed to control our nervous system. That includes our sympathetic nervous system, responsible for fight or flight responses, and our parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for relaxation and recovery. Some of the benefits of this practice include better focus, less stress, and an overall happier mood. I'll take a moment now to walk you through this breathing exercise. For a count of 1, you'll breathe in through your nose and feel your stomach filling up with air. Then for a count of 1, you'll breathe out through your nose and feel your stomach deflating. To help with this belly breathing, you can also place your hand on your stomach to feel it filling and deflating with air, like a balloon. You'll do that for 1 to 2 minutes, and I encourage you to set a timer on your phone so you can focus on just breathing and not on the time. Once the timer is up, you'll exhale, and when you can't exhale any longer, you'll hold your breath for as long as you can. When you've reached your breath retention limit on that exhale, you'll breathe in and hold for 10 seconds. So, what exactly is happening inside our body as we do this exercise? The Wim Hof method puts our body under temporary stress as we cut the oxygen supply while we hold our breath. In doing so, our body becomes faster at switching between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. In other words, it can help us return to relaxation and recovery way more easily when we're stressed. Wim Hof has a free smartphone app called the Wim Hof Method, where you can explore his breathing technique and his other wellness routines. And for those of you who like a little competition, through the app, and even without the app, you can time how long your breath retention is, log the results, and even share your results with other people. My dad and I have gotten into the habit of sharing our retention rates, which I've also found really helpful in holding me accountable to the practice. In episode 1 of Mind the Gaps, Me, Myself, and Mindfulness, I dive into the depths of what focused attention means and what it looks like in practice. One way we can practice mindfulness is through the art of meditation. This one took me quite a long time to get into since I was caught up in an unhelpful story that I told myself, which went something like, I'm bad at meditation, I can't focus, I can't turn my brain off, this isn't for me. Until finally, I bought into the fact that no one, and I mean no one, can be bad at meditation. The definition of mindful meditation is non-judgmentally noticing our thoughts as they've drifted away from the present, and in the noticing, we return to the now. So the definition of meditation itself includes the experience of our minds wandering from the present moment. Why does it include that experience? Because it's expected that our minds will drift. It's actually part of the process. Accepting that can help us get over ourselves when we think we're bad at meditating. Now, with time, we can train our minds to drift less and increase the amount of time we spend in a place of thoughtlessness, the now. But please keep in mind that even the most skilled meditators do not exist only in the present moment. When it comes to the benefits of routine meditation, one of the most fascinating research findings that I've come across is that meditation can lead to neurological changes in the brain that help with emotional regulation. So we're actually changing our brains, exercising it like a muscle every time we meditate. And the benefit? We get to be more emotionally regulated. Other significant benefits include improved attention and memory, increased self-compassion, and increased mindfulness. Also, decreased blood pressure, heart rate, and stress hormone spikes. If you're a first-time meditator or someone who's pissed off at the thought of it, but you might just give it a go, I'd suggest using a guided meditation to start. Some of my favorites include Waking Up with neuroscientist and philosopher Sam Harris, or the Headspace Guide to Meditation. Something that I've found super helpful in my meditation practice is starting the meditation immediately after I finish the Wim Hof breathing, since in that state, I've got the advantage of a regulated nervous system on my side to go into a deeper meditation. This brings us to item number 5 in my morning routine, which is getting direct sunlight into my eyes within the first hour of waking up. When I first heard of this practice, I thought, what on earth is standing in the sun half asleep gonna do for me? As it turns out, science supports that getting direct sunlight first thing in the morning can help improve focus, elevate mood, improve metabolism, and improve our quality of sleep. I first learned this from American neuroscientist Andrew Huberman on his podcast called Huberman Lab. It's important that the sunlight is direct, so not through a window and not through sunglasses. At the same time, I am by no means suggesting that you go out and stare directly into the sun. Definitely don't do that. It's also important to note that even on cloudy days, the sun is still up and out there, so even if you don't see it, it's doing its thing. So yes, since I live in Canada, during the winter months, I'm that woman on her balcony at 7 a.m. in a coat looking up at the clouds. Now, returning to my morning rush era for a moment, when I first moved into an apartment with a beautiful bedroom view of massive trees and the lake, for that whole first year that I lived there, I don't think I opened my bedroom curtains once. For context, I was feeling pretty down overall, and I was stuck on some pretty bad habits for my mental and physical health. When I committed to practice what I'd later preach as a psychotherapist, I felt a bit like Ebenezer Scrooge on Christmas morning, excitedly throwing open the curtains as if I'd just learned that the sun does in fact rise every morning and that there's good in the world to be had and to be shared. And now the sun is a friend of mine. I notice it, I invite it in, and I let it work its magic on me. The 6th and final feature of my morning routine is food for thought. Food for thought is defined as a piece of information that warrants serious consideration, designed to stimulate and nourish the mind. For me, this looks like taking 5 to 10 minutes to learn something new. I invite food for thought in the form of a few pages of a book, a segment of a podcast, or a reflection on a meditation app. A tidbit of new information from any source that prompts me to contemplate my own ideas. The benefit of this mental stimulation of challenging our beliefs with new information is right in line with our Mind the Gap slogan, surrendering our typical ways of looking at life to step out of our comfort zone and into our growth zone. By making space to do even one of these practices in the morning, one act of self-care, we're setting ourselves up for a better day. There's a whole bunch of uncontrolled shit that could come at us when the clock strikes 9 or whenever you start your workday. But for this moment, the quiet hours of the morning, you get to be in control. You get to take back your morning. Let's return to the idea of being a night owl or an early bird. I invite you in this moment to free yourself of either label. Be neither a night owl nor an early bird. Simply be the human being you are who can choose to have slow mornings and can choose not to, who can go to bed earlier and also stay up late and skip the routine. I invite you to let go of the stories you tell yourself that keep you in your comfort zone. Whether your comfort zone is morning rushing or being completely inflexible and letting your routine get in the way of being spontaneous. In your growth zone, whatever that looks like for you, you aren't bound to any label. For me, I'm not a late night person or a morning person. I'm a conscious being who now gets to experience most of my days a little earlier, a lot brighter, and a lot happier. Just as I'm a conscious being who also, now and again, gets to stay up late and throw the routine out the window. There's a quote by Anglo-Irish poet David Whyte on being playful and humorous with our self-care. He says, "We can look at humor as a spiritual practice, of always seeing the absurdity or willing to entertain the absurdity of what you're about, and at the same time, being very serious about your inner work. So rather than being either careless or robotic, we can find a happy medium that allows us to nurture our whole body. The best part? These morning routines do feel good, and so naturally, if you've built them up and into your life as habits, you'll actually want to keep them around and you'll miss them when you stray." In a food for thought moment the other day, I was listening to the Happiness podcast hosted by Laurie Santos, where she unpacks the differences between having happiness for your life and having happiness in your life. Laurie describes happiness for your life as the happiness you feel for your life in general. Maybe you're happy that you have a solid career, that you're in a healthy relationship, or that you live in a first world country. Happiness in your life is a little bit different. Laurie describes this as day-to-day moments that bring you joy and pleasure. This could be happiness from spending quality time with a partner, cooking one of your favorite meals, staying up late chatting with a friend, and taking back your morning. Since adopting the morning routine that I've shared with you here today, I've found more happiness in my life and not just for my life. And I think a big part of the happiness in my life is that it allows me the flexibility to still be spontaneous without any guilt. Now and then, the universe has other magnificent plans that might not fit with the routine. And in those moments, I've allowed myself the freedom to follow that flow, knowing my routine will be right there waiting for me when I get back. As John Lennon said, "Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans." My slow morning routine is my safe haven, a place in time and space that I've built untouched by the busy moments of the day to follow, a place that I get to explore from and return to. My greatest hope for today is that you find ways to build your safe haven, your routine, your peaceful, untouched, slow morning moments that can set you up for the rest of your day, today and forever. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, it's always appreciated for you to follow Mind the Gaps on your podcast streaming platform and to share it with your friends and family. To stay up to date on the show, you can find me on Instagram at kirsten.davidson. Thanks for minding the gaps with me today. I'll see you next time on the journey out of our comfort zone and into our growth zone.